Hi everybody, thanks for listening. You're about to hear a conversation I had with Eddy Maynard. Eddy's a photographer, videographer. He's very skilled, very talented. Known him for a lot of years. It's really interesting to hear about him and his journey, his battles with anxiety and lots of other things, and getting out there and taking pictures. So I hope you enjoyed the conversation that I had with him. I thought it was really fun. I'd just like to say a big thanks to Breakout Media for letting me use the studio today while I was in a bit of a pickle. And the dogs, I had to bring the dogs to the podcast, which was obviously I loved, but they didn't really settle. They kind of walk around a lot. They jump on Eddy at one point, bless him, and kind of won't leave us alone. And then they start play fighting at one point. So if you hear me shouting at Woody or Jesse or whatever, I'm going to try and I'll leave a lot of it in because otherwise it'll like mess up the conversational flow of the podcast. But I'm going to try and edit it out where I'm shouting. But just so you know, that's what it is. And big thanks to Eddy for being patient and cool about the dogs. Just climbing all over him all the time. So obviously, if you're watching it on the video on YouTube or whatever, then you'll be able to see the chaos. But if you're just listening and you're hearing all these weird noises and like dog collars rattling and shaking and stuff, then that's why. Cool. Thanks very much. I hope you enjoy the episode. Oh, and a big shout out to RBTV.com. It's my jiu-jitsu sportswear brand. I like to think that we make loads of cool stuff. So if you are into cool t-shirts, apparel, sportswear, whatever it is, or you do any kind of martial arts training, or even if you don't, even if you just want some cool base layers or whatever while you're running, check out our website, www.reapjujitsu.com. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to RBTV. We're back online, guiding you with a smooth jazz medley through these twilight hours.
So Eddy Maynard,
yeah,
how's it going?
Yeah, good, yeah.
Thanks for taking the time to do the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yes, all right.
I thought it'd be interesting because me and you have obviously worked together in the past in loads of different ways.
Yeah.
We've always I feel like we've always had good conversations, but we've always usually been at work.
Yeah.
So it's been like, hang on, I'll just go and take these photos. Or I'll be like, I need to go and pay these people or whatever. We've not properly hung out really.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be nice, and I thought I guess I've kind of seen. I don't know how much of it I've seen, but certainly you from your early days of your career, I guess up until now.
Yeah.
You're taking photos of fucking Sam Dunk and that politician, I can't remember his name.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah. And got all sorts of cool projects going on, so it's been quite interesting to see you develop and grow and all that. And I just thought it'd be interesting to sit down and talk through it really.
Yeah.
How did you get into photography?
So okay. So going way back, basically, my mum used to be a wedding photographer.
If you keep stroking her, she will not move. By the way, she's just
it's not
for
right.
anyone listening,
She's
I've
so
got my
soft.
dogs in the studio.
She's so soft, I can't stop. So
Jess, come here.
I'll just sit here like this.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's going way back. My mum used to be a wedding photographer.
Right. Okay.
I can't exactly remember how she got into it. She was doing photography at college.
Yeah.
Which was CCAD, which is kind of how I was like, oh yeah, I want to go to CCAD as well. So
Right.
that's how I kind of...
That's quite cool.
Kind of inspired.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I kind of had an interest in photography because she was coming home, she was doing a night class.
Yeah.
And she was coming home and taking photos of me and my brother for her projects and stuff with the night class. And I don't know, I was really just interested in the whole process behind it and stuff.
Yeah.
And at the time, I can't remember how old I was maybe about 14, 15 or something. And I was really into kind of I guess it would be called metalcore music.
Yeah.
And there was them gigs on at Liberties.
Yeah.
The classic Liberties gigs. If anyone's listening, went
So
to them.
who was playing at those gigs?
So it was basically just there was local bands. So there was the Escape Artist.
Yeah.
Who else? There was some other bands Demoralizer.
Yeah.
Heart in Hand, I think they were called.
Yeah, I remember them.
I think they got cancelled at one point.
Yeah, I'm sure the singer's a pedo. I was about to say that.
Something like that, yeah. We won't go there. Who else? There was, do you know what, Foundations? Foundations.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I I listened to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to the gigs, but like my friends, I know it was a weird period where like my friends from who I was hanging out with at the time, they didn't really go to the gigs much, or they weren't kind of going to some of the gigs. So I was like, I really want to go to these gigs.
Yeah.
Didn't really know many people that were going. So I was like, right, well, you know, I like photography. I've got a camera. I just got a camera for Christmas the year before or something. Right. So I was like, right, if I go and take photos there, people won't think I'm a weirdo going to gigs on my own.
Right.
That's at the time. Yeah. So kind of taking it back a step before that, I struggled a lot as a kid with anxiety.
Okay.
I remember like, do you know what? It's really weird. I was thinking about this morning. I was watching a Lewis Capaldi podcast with
Stephen Bartlett. Yeah, I listened to that last week. Yeah,
he was on about like anxiety when he was a kid, and I was kind of like, oh, shit, that's what I was like.
Yeah.
I remember like just so you kind of know kind of how like what it was like. I remember going at the nurse's office when I was a kid in school.
Yeah.
Because I used to just panic about everything.
Right.
I saw a poster on the wall for meningitis or something like that. It's really weird. Like I don't remember much from my childhood, but I really remember this vivid memory about this poster about meningitis, and it said something like meningitis, something about like manage the minutes or something like that, and it was something to do with in the first half an hour of your symptoms coming on.
Yeah.
You have to like do these things or you'll die or something like that's how like my brain kind of processed it at the time. So I'd seen the nurse had gone out somewhere, and I was just sat in the office. I looked at this poster, I was like, oh, meningitis. I was like, oh, these are the symptoms, and it was like a list of like, you know, really standard like fever.
It was like a red mark on your skin.
Yeah, just anything that, you know, like when you look at like when you feel, oh, I feel slightly ill, and you Google it and you're like headache. I'm like, oh, my head's hurting. Like,
I've got a bridge.
Oh yeah, like a rash, and you're like itching yourself and that. It was kind of like, so I was looking at this poster, and then after that, it was just like for months I was like, whenever anything happened at school, I was like, oh, I got meningitis. I was like, I've got 30 minutes, I'm going to die. Like it's really, I don't know. So I was like always like an anxious kid growing up, and that I don't even know where it came from.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like obviously these gigs happened, and I was like really anxious. Like, oh, what if I go and someone thinks I'm like weird, just being on my own, and what if people laugh at me because I've got no friends and that. And
when you're a teenager, like that shit, so like it just eats you up, doesn't it? Like you come from school where there is like a weird social hierarchy, and like it's exacerbated as a teenager, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was a proper freak in school as well. Like I remember like some of the things that like I did and said in school. I was just a proper freak. Like I was just a proper like weird nerdy kid, like just trying to fit in.
Yeah. I used to get called skateboard freak.
All right, okay.
They hadn't coined the term.
But that's cool now, isn't it? That's in trend now.
Yeah, I used to like skateboard to school, and everyone like the school didn't know what to do because they were like, "What are we allowed? Like, is it like a bike? You know what I mean? Can you like lock it up somewhere?"
Yeah.
In the end, they were like, "No, you're not allowed to like skateboard to school anymore." It was
really that's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, sorry.
That's cool. So yeah, bit of a weirdo in school and that. Trying to fit in, just thought, you know, want to go to these gigs. So I thought, right, you know what, I'll take my camera. I can't remember who was running the gigs. Honestly, I don't remember.
It was a combination of people like would just have it pop.
I think like it was like a MySpace at the time.
Yeah, probably.
I think I contacted someone through MySpace, and I was like, "Do you want some photos? I'll do them for free."
Yeah.
Like I just want to come to the gig.
Yeah.
And then I started taking photos there, and I kind of just like regularly went and just took my camera and took photos, and that was really how I got into like I think I bought a flash, because I think the first time I went I didn't have a flash, and I was like, oh, this is really hard, so I bought a flash. And I just met loads of, do you know, it's weird, like I met loads of people through that. That's probably kind of like in a way the start of that journey led me on to like probably how I know you, because there was like certain people back then that I met, and then I think I somehow know Phil Saunders through them gigs, or someone at them gigs had linked me in with Phil Saunders or whatever, and then Phil had got me working nightclubs. So through doing them gigs, I then started doing nightclubs, and then kind of everything just, I did nightclubs for maybe like 8 years. It was like until
nightclubs for ages.
It was a long time, a really long time. Do you know what? I remember starting doing clubs, and I was like, I think I was 17 at the time. I think I might have lied to Phil and told him I was 18. Sorry, Phil, if you're listening. And I think my first night was AVM. I think, did you have something to do with AVM as well?
Yeah, it was a 10 feet tall night, so I'd do bits like, I was more sumo, but like if there was a gig on, I'd maybe run the gig or whatever. It wasn't my night in particular, but I'd either work there or I'd be getting pissed there. Yeah. So I was happy to work there.
Because I think that's kind of where I met you at some point.
Probably,
yeah. So yeah, I did nightclub stuff. That went on till like the beginning of COVID. Yeah. I wanted out at that point. I was just like, I'm sick. Yeah. From when I first started, like 8-9 years ago, I was like, oh, I'll do this for like a couple of years. And when I'm like, if I'm still doing this when I'm 23, that's really weird. Because like when I was like 17, 18, like someone who was 23 was really old. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I was like, oh, I don't want to be 23-year-old taking photos of 18-year-olds in clubs. So that's a bit weird. Anyway, it got to like 28 and I was like still working clubs. And I was like, oh, like the money was really good and it was fun. And like, it was weird because like I met people there. And I feel like I made friends there, but it was weird because I wouldn't see them outside of them clubs. And it was like when I met them outside of the clubs, I didn't know what to say because they weren't drunk and it was in a weird like I felt really like, I don't know, it was weird like being in clubs. I kind of felt I didn't really feel any anxiety because I kind of thought everyone's drunk, no one really cares. And even if I said something weird, or you know when you like just freak out and you just think, oh, what if I say something stupid, or what if I like embarrass myself, or just standard like anxiety thoughts. I was like, well, they're drunk, they're never going to even remember it. Do you know what I mean? There's people who I'd like be like, oh hi, like that, and I had a big massive conversation with them last week, and they were like looking at me like, I have no idea who you are. So as soon as I realised that, I was like, it's cool, I don't need to worry about anything here. I feel totally comfortable here. So I kind of like, it was like a nice, safe environment for me to like work in, make money in. And
it's funny though, because I left clubs around the same age, 26 maybe, like stopped working for 10 feet tall and quickly lost interest in it. And you can make like decent money, you know, running your own nights and stuff, but I was just burnt out. I'd like, similar to you, I'd spent 7 or 8 years working in clubs and I was like, yeah, fucking get out of this. And I could see a couple of paths and some of them I didn't like the look of, you know what I mean? You can get, I think you did a good job of not getting sucked into like drinking all the time, you know what I mean? I'd work and I'd drink and I'd sometimes mix the two up and sometimes some harder stuff as well. But something when you leave that and then you start thinking about those friendships and those people, and there's like literally people that, like you say, like I'd have considered friends at the time and I probably haven't seen since I stopped. And you know, and they're probably thinking the same because they probably don't go out anymore. Maybe some of them still do. But it's strange, and then you think about that process and you go, well, actually, who are my friends? You know what I mean? Who do I want to hang around with? And those kind of people you're left with, you're like, because I'm still friends with some people that I hung out with back in those days, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, well, that's quite nice because that came out of that, but it's maybe 2 or 3 compared to like
same really.
It's a big network of people, really. You know, it was hundreds of people. If you think about the amount of people that you said hello to. Might not have been friends with or close with, but it was probably hundreds of people, you know what I mean? And
it's definitely people I would have said at the time. It's definitely people I would have said at the time, like, I'm my mates. And to be fair, I'd probably like, I don't necessarily think there's anything like sinister. I think it's just kind of like, it is very like hollow, shallow friendships, isn't it? Because I don't know. I think when people are drunk, they'll just kind of like. There's people that have like really like, I've had a conversation with in a club, but they've opened up to me and like told me some like really personal stuff, and we've had a really nice, what I thought was like, because I was sober, like, that was a really nice chat, and then like it turns out that they don't even remember any of that, and they've probably had that conversation with like 10 other people because like something had happened that day, and they're like, I feel like, oh, they're opening up to me. That's really nice. Like, because obviously being like a total loser in school, I didn't really have like, I had a few friends in school, but I definitely wasn't like super popular, didn't have loads of friends and stuff. So it was nice to like go into an environment where people were really friendly.
You know lots of people,
and I kind of like felt lucky in a way that I got into the clubs that I did. AVM always sound, Sumo, everyone always sound. Creeps, like everyone was always like super friendly.
They were quite nice. They were almost like communities, weren't they? More than like,
definitely,
because there's clubs, you know, that people go to, and there's like, you know, I'm thinking more like dance nights and R&B nights and stuff.
I feel like it is very linked to the genre of music that's played there.
And they can be quite cliquey, whereas like obviously rock, people tend to have...
Definitely, yeah.
Like, if you find rock music, you tend to have went looking for it, and there's a reason you went looking for it, so you've already got that in common, haven't you? Really?
Yeah, 100%. It's weird as well, because I went to... my mate Nathaniel runs Sinners Club.
Yeah.
And my partner Joe works on the door.
Yeah.
So I go and pick her up when she's like finished on a night. And it's weird, like, I see loads of the same people that used to go out.
Yeah.
And like, it's more them people that kind of like, they'll still come up to me and have like a really nice conversation with me and stuff. Whereas the people that I met doing like the house nights or the R&B nights are the kind of people that like would totally, like, not in a bad way, but would like totally look through me now. Like, they wouldn't even whereas the people from the rock nights go, oh, Eddie, how you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, they're still drunk. Do you know what I mean? It's still like a similar environment.
Yeah.
But it is nice. I feel like there's a huge difference between like them kind of nights and like the more like house dance. It was all deep house at the time. That was the big buzzword. I think that techno is the buzzword now.
Yeah.
Everything's
is it? I don't know.
Yeah, everything's a techno night now. Even if it's not a techno night, we're just going to say it's a techno night.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, I did nightclub stuff. And then kind of through that, there was like a bit of a tedious link, but I don't know if you remember Sumo. I don't know if you booked it or Phil booked it or anyone. The Steel Cats from Leeds.
Yeah, I know. I know they've seen that. Yeah.
One of the Steel Cats, she was called Steph.
Yeah.
Is from Leeds, and she knows.
I went to uni with some of them, so like it's how that link ended up. But yeah.
So she knows someone called Katie.
Right.
Who I now do weddings with.
Right.
So that's how Katie knew me, through Steph, because I think I'd added Steph on Instagram to send her some photos of fire breathing or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I met Katie through that. Katie was on the slam dunk team, so I was like, oh, do you want to come do slam dunk? Because you're looking for photographers. So that's how I got into slam dunk. And then it kind of like went from there.
Spiraled.
So it's like, it's like a weird, like, it's weird, like, looking back on clubs. Like, if someone said to me now, can you come and do this club night? I'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. But I'm so glad that I did. And I met, like, I don't know if, I mean, before I was doing clubs, I remember I was working in a restaurant as a waiter. Yeah. And I was kind of just, like, totally all right with that. I mean, looking back now, it was horrible. Having a boss was just horrible. Yeah. And, like, having the stress of, like, going into work and having to, like, it was in Yarm. Yeah. So, like, a lot of the people that came in, some people that came in were lovely, but a lot of the people that came in were, like, I feel like Yarm's a place where people go because they think, oh, Yarm's posh, I'll go to Yarm. I'm posh because I'm in Yarm, even though they're not. They're just going to, like, what was quite a, it wasn't a budget restaurant, but it definitely wasn't like a high-end restaurant. Do you know what I mean? But they were, because they were in Yarm, they felt like, oh, I'm in Yarm, I can treat the waiter like shit and click my fingers and all this. And like, our boss was like, oh, well, if they're doing that, like, if that's kind of what they want, you have to do that. And very much like, I think I got a warning. I got a final warning there because I put there was one of the things on the menu was potato wedges, and you got a choice of dip on the wedges, and so it was like tomato sauce, barbecue sauce, garlic, whatever. Yeah. So when they were ordering, like, what dip you want with that? And they said, oh, tomato sauce. And I put on the thing, Tommy K, you know, like typing it in the thing, because I was like, it's just going to the kitchen. Do you know what I mean? And that's what that's what all the chefs called ketchup, Tommy K. Yeah. So I put that on the check. And anyway, later on that night, I got dragged into the office. He's like, my boss is like, what's this on the check? Tommy K, what's that? And I was like, oh, it's like tomato ketchup. And he's like, but it's unprofessional, it's going out to the customer. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't realise that was on like the customer's receipt. I thought it was his kitchen receipt. Yeah. And he gave me like a warning for it. He's like, it's unprofessional. And I was like, what? And he's like, and why did you put thank you and a smiley face on the receipt? I was like, oh, because I was like listening to this thing, and it said that if you do that, you're more likely to get tips. And obviously the tips were shared, so it wasn't like I was just getting tips. It was like one of them, you know, where like the manager takes loads of the tips as well.
And it's a nice thing to do.
Exactly, you know what I mean? I got warning for that because it wasn't professional. And I was like, it was at that point where I was just like, oh man, like, I hate this. Like, this is, because I don't know, it was just like being normal. It wasn't like, I wasn't like, I don't know. I just thought that was like a informal, normal thing to like do. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But so that was the thing that pushed me to like, right, I want to do something else. Yeah. I can't remember if I asked Phil or Phil asked me to do AVM or whatever, and then that's how I got into that. So.
Cool. What was your first camera? You said you got one for Christmas.
My first camera.
Was that if you met him?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was a Canon 350D.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
A silver one. And I remember I got a lens with it, and it was like a 250mm lens.
Right.
And I was like, look how big, this lens is massive. Yeah, look at this lens is sick. And I was like but no, I'm just like, it's just such a cringe thing, you know what I mean? It's like, but I remember like taking loads of photos of it, put on MySpace. I'd like, oh yeah, I'll zoom the lens out so the lens looks massive because I'm a professional and all this. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's probably so cringe looking back now, yeah. But, it was, to be fair, at the time, it was like quite a decent like camera.
Yeah. Especially like that sort of age as well, you know what I mean? It's like a professional camera, it's not just like a point and click.
And I remember I had a Flickr page. That was like where I first started.
I had a Flickr page,
I've still got it. I mean, don't look, but I still keep it because I just think like, it's nice to look back on and like I feel like sometimes I look at my work and I just think, oh, this is the same stuff I was shooting from like 4 years ago. Like I've not progressed, and then I'll look back at it and I'll think, oh, you know what? I feel like I have improved, and then I'll look back at my Flickr and think, wow, I've definitely improved. It's like it's good to. Some of the things I was like taking photos of were like a wind chime in a window, and then putting like, you know, like a really inspirational caption or something. Or like putting like, I remember I took a photo of like the beach, and I put like Architect lyrics over it in like scroll font and that, and I put that on my Flickr, and I was like, yeah,
I bet you fucking killed it on MySpace with that.
Yeah, it was like the early days of Tumblr and stuff like that. Yeah,
I somehow found my Flickr not that long ago, and I went on, and when I was at uni, I did a stint working at like the O2 in Leeds as a club photographer for like a night that they had there. Like I only did it 3 or 4 times because I was shit and I couldn't be asked. But and I went on, and all of these photos were on there because I remember I'd uploaded them to there for the club promoter to look at and pick the ones that he wanted to use.
Right. Okay.
And it's fucking weird. It was like it's like a time capsule of like a 2011 maybe. Like it was a while ago, obviously. Maybe longer, 2010.
Yeah.
And it's like a time capsule of nightclubs at that point. And I was like, this is fucking weird as. And I was like, I wonder if all these people know these photos exist.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's well strange. Yeah. But yeah, so that's my Flickr. So definitely look at that.
Yeah. But it is good, isn't it though? Because I found all them. I've got all them Liberties photos on.
Yeah,
on
yeah. And you posted some of them on your Instagram a while ago.
Yeah, I re-edited them because I found. Do you know what I found? I have this thing right where like, I constantly buy hard drives and I archive like loads of my raw files. Like I don't think I have many nightclub photos. Yeah. Because I just think like there's just so many. I kept like some nights. So say like if Creeps had like a I don't know, like a Blue Planet rave night or something, or like a Halloween, like the Sumo Halloween. I'd keep like them because I just think like they're kind of, in terms of like nightclub photos go, they'll probably be like interesting because there's more stuff. It's not just like a weekly thing. But yeah, I'd kept all of my raw files, and I sometimes like look back, and I found them Liberties ones, and I was like, oh, I'll re-edit them because and it was also interesting to like re-edit, you know, like old files and find out how like because
it wouldn't have been big in terms of like file size and stuff.
And there's not a lot you could do with them. So if they're like overexposed now, like Sony files, if you overexpose them, you could just totally bring them back.
Yeah,
it feels like cheating. It's so bad. Them were like, I mean, you could probably do more with like JPEGs these days than you could do with raw files back then. Like it was I was trying to recover some of them, and I was like, there was no information. I was just like, that's so weird. But anyway, I'd found all them. I don't know where I was going with all that.
You were talking about stashing your hard drives, going through all your pictures, re-editing them for Liberties, and posting them on your Instagram.
Yeah. No, something about Flickr. Oh yes, I'd found them all. I found them all on my Flickr. It was really interesting. But when you were saying about the looking back like on the time capsule of the nightclub stuff, I do find it really interesting because even though my photos back then were like pretty shit, I find them, I don't know, that's how things were then, and like I feel like that was like in trend then to edit the way that I was editing and stuff. And I always find it really interesting looking at I follow a guy on Instagram. I can't remember what he's called now. I'll remember as soon as you stop filming this. But he posts loads of like nightclub photos from when he was a photographer, like in the 80s and stuff.
Right.
And they probably were like no better than what people are doing these days, or what I was doing then, or kind of what anyone was doing. But because they're like old, and because you see like the fashion change and everything like that, it's really interesting.
Like the cameras that they shot on,
I'm so glad that I've like kept all that, because I just think, even though one, it's kind of like humbling to look back and just think, oh wow, like I was really bad and I thought I was really good, and like that's kind of like a reminder for me to like never get ahead of myself. And do you know what I mean? I think that's just like a teenage thing though, isn't it? That you think you're mint and that. Yeah. And obviously from being a total loser to like, oh, I've got a camera, I can do. Oh, it's something that someone's complimented me on. Oh, like, oh yeah, I'm the best. I look back at my Facebook memories every morning as well, right? I'm on this like little routine thing at the minute, where first thing in the morning, because I just remember it's the first thing I do. Yeah. I like look on my Facebook, look at my, like where you can look back at your memories and see what you've posted on this day. Yeah. And I just delete everything. Just like, but it's, like, because I think I don't want to. Do you know what, I see stuff now, right, that people are posting, like on TikTok and that like 16, 17-year-olds are posting. I'm like, oh, it's quite cringy that, like, they're going to regret that. And then I look back at my memories and think, oh, God, they're really cool compared to me. Like, some of the stuff that I was like some of the stuff that comes up, I'm like, I get, like, a hot sweat on my... It's probably not a good thing. It's probably not a good thing to do first thing on the morning, like, completely overload your brain with, like, stress. With anxiety. Yeah. But, I sometimes look back and think, how did anyone from 2013, like, want to be my mate? Yeah, like, I just think, like, especially some of the stuff I posted, I think, like, some of it was, like, trying to be controversial, because that was like that was what you did, on Facebook. I just look back and I'm like, oh, some of them I screenshot and then I delete them, and some of them I just delete them because I'm just like, I just want to forget that was. I did when I was maybe like 24, 25. I logged into my MySpace for a laugh. Right. And I was MySpace, right? This is how old I am. But when I went to uni, I got a Facebook account when you could only get it with a university account. All right, okay. Like the first year of OG. That. Yeah, okay. And when I went to uni, a lot of people were like, you get this Facebook thing, like, it's what everybody at uni uses. And MySpace was, like, at its peak at the time. And I was like, what's this? I was like, I can't put a song on. Like, change my background in that. Yeah. But anyway, so, like, basically, I was still using MySpace for a couple of years. And then Facebook took over. I forgot about MySpace. And I logged back in. And I did exactly the same thing. I went in my messages and I looked at chats that I'd had with girls. I was just like trying to chat birds up on MySpace. Yeah. And honestly, it was like, I'm like feeling it now. I just deleted all the chats. I wish I hadn't now because it'd be hilarious to look back on them. Yeah. But like fucking putting raw faces and like, like old school XD. Emo. Yeah. So much. And I was like, I looked at them all and I was like, I can't believe and it worked. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it is strange, isn't it? It's like a different. It's like when you think of, when people use stuff for kind of, I know there's like a lot of controversial stuff obviously going on in the world at the minute, and people look back and think, oh, it was like a different age and that. And kind of even like looking back on like stuff that like the way that people chatted people up. I mean, I don't know if it was just a mockery thing. Do you know what I mean? Using all the XD raw stuff. Yeah. But like. I don't think it's any more controversial and stuff today, but it's definitely like everyone's mindset was like so different then. Yeah. And that's we're all more confident. I feel like there's a lot of, and for good reason that people are talking about it and stuff, if they suffer with it, there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of like teenage depression and stuff. Yeah. And I feel like we were all just wild. Yeah. It's probably it's probably not that bad really that everyone's kind of being like, oh, it's probably a nice balance. I think about like, there's like tons I wanted to like touch on that you've talked about there, but like one thing I think about at the minute is like on Instagram, I feel like everybody, and I'm guilty of it, is like every reel, unless it's something like creative and nice, like something that you'd make, something that I'd try and make, like through Reap or whatever, is like somebody talking to the camera, telling somebody what to do. But you should do 50 press-ups and then do this and today, cut out carbs. You know what I mean? Like, or it's like, what you should do with your money is invest it into this. And I'm like, I open up my phone and I'm like, who are all these fucking idiots telling me? And why do they think they're important enough to tell me what the fuck to do? Like, I'm really like, I don't know. And
I don't mind some of it if you're searching for it, like YouTube videos. If I'm looking for, I was looking at like buying a t-shirt press the other day, and I was like, there's an entire fucking YouTube library of videos of the best printers to buy and like all that, and I was like, that's amazing, that's super helpful.
Yeah. When you've asked for help.
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah. But at the minute, I feel like everyone just thinks they're an authority on like the smallest subject. It could be like, to be like, don't open your car door this way, like open it this way and like save it, and I'm fuck off, leave me alone. You know what I mean? What happens to, and I understand the technology shifted, but I'm like, can't you just make a nice video of like your dog sauce, man?
It's weird, isn't it? Because a lot of it now, like a lot of it is, I don't know. I think people do stuff for reactions as well.
Oh,
Like that gets the algorithm going and stuff as well. And people just do weird stuff now. I saw like an advert for a jewellery company. I was totally suckered in by it. I bought a ring the other day. I don't wear rings. Yeah. But I bought one off this.
You do now.
Canucci or something it was called. It's like aimed at like roadmen kind of people.
All right.
I have no idea why it started coming up on my thing. Anyway, there was this like ring with like a Japanese thing on it, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. I was sitting at Joe, I was like, oh, should I buy this ring? Will that look cool? Would that suit a ring? She's like, yeah, go for it. So I bought this ring. And then all of a sudden, all these Roadman Canucci adverts started coming up on my thing, right? And then there was this advert for like another jewellery company that was like a high-end, I think it was crafted jewellery or something like that.
Yeah.
Kind of like affordable. I'm sure this sponsor that Diary of a CEO podcast. I'm sure.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, I know what you mean.
Anyway, they posted this advert, and it was just, I can't really remember what it was, but it had like a hair overlaid on the advert. You know, like a pube or something, you know, like overlaid. And I was like, it was obviously done on purpose.
Like an aesthetic thing, right? Okay, yeah.
I think what it was there for, because all the comments were like, oh, there's a hair on the screen, or oh, weird, you know what I mean? But loads of people were commenting about it, and I was like, it's showing it to loads of people, and it had millions of views, and I'm like, how weird is it, right, that like a jewellery company that are like promoting nice gold jewellery, like look smart and all this, I'm going to put a pube over the advert to get people to...
Yeah, they've done that literally
so
to get people to...
Yeah, like it's such a... Why is that? Like, why as a society have we now, instead of like thinking, right, let's make an advert that like people, or let's post something on social media that's going to make people like, oh, this is nice, or no, how are we going to get people's attraction? Pube on it. Like,
yeah. It feels like
weird.
The quickest shortcut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because I have this battle a little bit at work, and like long story, like for people that don't know, I work for a marketing company, do video production, and we do client work, and we do like in-house work as well. And I like clients what clients want, and they'll have a product, and they'll be like, can you make like a video out of this? And like I'd love to have the time to like sit and craft an advert that's like that really thinks out, like, you know, like I like directors like Spike Jonze and like people that really come up with like mad ideas. Mm-hmm. And I throw them at a lot of like the internal stuff, and I get it when some people are like, I just don't think it's going to work. Yeah. But I'm like, that for me is like what these big brands and companies should be doing, but they don't. They just put a pube on the video.
They just put bait stuff on, don't they? Yeah. It's like, and I think people's,
but you like
people's attention spans as well.
Yeah.
I've noticed when I've done a couple of reels, none of them have like, I think there was one of them from Outbreak Festival that like did alright.
Yeah.
Other than that, they've kind of not really went huge. But I remember that like one of the first reels, I spent a load of time. I spent like 2-3 hours editing it in Final Cut, and I put it up, and it got like barely any thingy. I put a video up. Next one I did was another one that I'd spent time editing, and I thought, oh, this will look cool. This will look nice and polished, and that. Put it up. Didn't really do that well. Yeah. Like, it was alright. I enjoyed doing it. And then I put one up of just like me talking about what stuff is in my camera bag or something like that, and it like
killed it.
It didn't go viral or anything like that. But it got like 10 times more views than the last one. I think it only got like maybe like 6,000 views, but it got way more than the last one. And I'm like, it took me like 2 minutes to do that.
Disheartening, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's where I'm stuck at a little bit in my head with video stuff at the minute. Is like music videos or like wedding videos or whatever. And I don't think that the world revolves. Well, the world kind of does revolve around Like's done it, but I don't think it should. And I don't obviously do stuff just to get likes or whatever. But it's disheartening when you spend a lot of time on something, whether it be like a music video or whatever, and then because there's nothing bait in it or anything like that, the algorithm just doesn't show it to anyone. It totally tanks. You got like 10 people liking it, and then like even though that doesn't matter, because them 10 people could have absolutely loved it, and like if you showed a video to 10 people and they were like, "Oh mate, that's so sick," you'd be buzzing
like in the room. Yeah,
but if it's like just a little like, it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah,
and then I don't know. It gets to you, like it feels like it probably shouldn't at all, and it's so messed up. But then I kind of think, you know, is my work shit? Like, is it even worth it? Like, should I just, I don't know. Like, it's weird seeing people like posting just random. I started getting like sponsored ads at one point for like people were sponsoring selfies, and they were getting like 1 million views. On I was like, what?
People with them have started to do. So they'll like do a long form YouTube video, like a 9-minute video, and they'll do that as an ad. So that like, you know, like most YouTube ads are 6 seconds and you skip. It'll be like 9 minutes. And it counts as a view if you watch this thing till the end.
Right.
So that like they're paying for exposure to like get it into people's faces for their essentially vlog. You know what I mean? And you're like, it's so contrived. It's really, really odd, isn't it? Like,
it's strange.
Similar thing with Reels, where as like a video editor, like spent fucking ages like crafting these Reels and putting effects on them and stuff.
Yeah.
And for ages they didn't hit, and then we at work we shot a podcast actually with the owner of the business, Mike, and this other guy who he's been killing it on TikTok, and he thinks he's got the formula nailed. For he's got like 100,000 followers. He's been hammering TikTok for 4 months, but in a very specific way. So he does like 2 8-second posts a day and 1 30-second post, and it literally anything. It'd be like that mug. He'd be like, "It's a nice glass of water." TikTok, bam. That's one of his 8-second posts. And then seeing this plant, that's one of his 8. Like
just posting it as a reel.
Sorry, on TikTok.
On TikTok, sorry.
But just posting it as a reel,
Yeah.
And that's his formula. And then does like a business related thing, because he has like a business that helps businesses get funded. So he figured out his niche, and that's it. And he's got like 100,000 followers. Now gets paid for his TikToks. Yeah. I'm sure there's more to it than that. But that's effectively what he did. So I was like, right, I'm going to take your thing and I'm going to test it out on TikTok. And I couldn't do a full month in there because I just fucking couldn't be bothered. It was like, it drained me a bit.
It feels like a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like pressure as well.
Yeah. So for 2 weeks, I think I posted 3 TikToks a day. I followed his formula. And fucking the ones that hit, there was no pattern to the ones that hit and the ones that didn't. And then some of them I'd craft and make like nice, didn't matter. And then the one that blew up, right? Yeah, I took my daughter to a soft play, and I forgot my socks, and I was like, I can't fucking run around here barefoot. I was like, that's minging. So I had to take her out of the soft play. So I literally got there, I went to take my shoes off, and I thought, fuck. I got in the car and I bought these shitty socks from Asda because they were 50p. And they had like Love Art donuts on them.
Right.
So I videoed that, literally just my feet in these socks, and put the caption on that I'd gone to a soft play, realised I had socks on, I had to go and buy these shitty socks. Yeah. That went fucking viral. That went viral. And I was like, I was like, honestly, the stuff I've made, like,
all of hours you spent like editing and stuff. Yeah, that's.
I was like, and it was like some 50p socks, but you can't. I find it hard. I find TikTok is its own thing anyway. And when I first got TikTok maybe 18 months ago for Reap, when I'm talking about Reap, people that don't know, like I have a jiu-jitsu clothing brand. So I test loads of stuff with Reap because I can have like a lot of fun with it. Mm-hmm. So I got TikTok 18 months ago, put up loads of polished content. Yeah. Tanked. It just all tanked. Yeah. And then I had to like revert it and would just like take a video in the gym of people rolling. And then it started to do all right. Now I think TikTok's getting so popular that you can put polished content on there again. Yeah. I think it's kind of coming back around and people are liking that a bit more on TikTok. But Reels are always playing catch up to TikTok. So
just copying, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like 6 months behind. Yeah.
So, but I just put them on there anyway. And I followed a photographer who he did 30 Reels in 30 days.
Peter McKinnon?
Possibly. Right. I can't remember. I just
I've watched a video of someone. I think it might have been Peter McKinnon, but I don't know.
And so I did that on Reap, and it was really hard because I was like saying, like I struggled to edit on a phone anyway. You know what I mean? I like to.
I hate it, mate.
I'm faster even though I have to upload or like airdrop the videos or whatever, because I've been using video editing software same as you for so long. I'm faster. It's easier for me to just whip out my laptop and fucking do a bit and then post it. So I did that on Reap for 30 days, and it actually felt like the old Instagram. I started to get a bit of traction and get followers and people and get some exposure to a new audience. But that's a lot of effort.
Yeah. Do you find as well on when I remember the first time I opened TikTok and I tried to make a video on TikTok, I was like, what is this? Like nothing made sense. And I was like, I feel like when I've been growing up and stuff, and like you always like older generation don't get stuff, and you're like explaining, you're like, it's so obvious, and they're like, I just don't get it. That's what I felt like opening TikTok. I was like, oh. Wow, either I'm getting old or it didn't make any sense. Yeah. And like now, if I make I don't use TikTok, but if I make a reel, I'll edit it in Final Cut because I'm just like, I don't understand. One other theory I had about reels and TikTok, well, TikToks in general and reels in general, was that if I made a bit of content that looked professional, I've found when I've been scrolling through Instagram, because there's so many ads there now, if something looks too professional, which is a bit weird for me to like, it's difficult for me to distinguish because obviously I follow those photography accounts, so all the photography and it's usually quite good anyway. Yeah. If I see something that's an ad, I just think, no, I scroll past it because I just think, no, they're not getting my money. They probably still do anyway because it was on there. But you know, it's just like rebelling. No, then I'm not looking at that. And I think when I've put like polished stuff on, people might do the same. Yeah. Might just think, oh no, it looks too good. It must not too good. Do you know what I mean? That sounds big-headed, but it's filmed on a proper camera. It must be an ad. Like flick past it. Yeah. Whereas if it's like, I don't know, I've seen some weird reels where it's like someone putting something in a vice, and that's it. And it's like 10 seconds long, and you're like waiting for something to happen. But I feel like because it doesn't look like an ad or something, someone's probably watched that, and then you get to the end and you're like, what? And then it's gone back to the beginning, so they get like the bonus reach because you've watched it again. And then people are commenting going, what's this? It's a load of rubbish. So then they're getting the reach from that, and it's just like, I don't know. It just makes no sense. It makes me want to never edit another video ever again, to be honest with you.
It's such a weird place to be though, as somebody who makes stuff. Yeah. Because I'm like, I want to make nice stuff, and I like to make high quality, good looking, like jiu-jitsu gear. Mm-hmm. So like if I make a shitty video, I'm like, that represents, for me, in my head, I'm like, not a shitty video. If I make a video that doesn't look good aesthetically, I'm like, that makes my brand look shit, because they're going to look at the quality of the video and go, if that's the quality of it, and this might not be how people think anymore, but this is how my head works. Yeah. I'm like, if they look at a shitty quality video, they're going to think they're going to get a shitty quality product. Yeah. And if you put up loads of shit videos, as somebody who makes money as a videographer, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Someone's not going to book me to do a wedding, are they?
It's so counterintuitive, isn't it? You just like the light, like the fucking, there is no lighting, there's no setup, it's just like a phone.
But I think all it does, ultimately, that whole kind of social media model, whatever you want to call it, algorithm, whatever, it just makes people feel shit. Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether like you just like someone that uses Instagram and put up selfies or whatever, or like, because Instagram obviously killed the reach lately, right? I don't know, if you were someone like who's really self-conscious and you put up loads of selfies because you get loads of people liking it and it's like validation, if them likes start dropping, you're gonna you're gonna just feel worse. So it's not good for them kind of people. It's not good for creators because they're just thinking, none of my stuff's getting shown to anyone. What's the point? And it's like I don't see where it can go now from this.
Yeah. It's. I think we're in for like a really interesting couple of years of social media. Yeah. I'm gonna go back to that TikTok thing. Yes is the answer. I did exactly the same. I opened up TikTok and it's like being overstimulated. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah. Like, and I was like, that video, and I was like, who's that? Like, it was just like bang, 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 bang. I just was like, oh. And then I was like, I'm gonna make a video on Premiere.
Yeah. I think it ruins your attention span as well. Because it's like, you like straight away, if you're bored of something, you just flick to the next thing. So I find it really difficult now to kind of there's a guy, I can't remember. There's a guy called Sean Tucker who's got a YouTube channel,
right?
And he was talking to someone on his channel. I can't remember who it was now, and they were saying about like the art of like documentary stuff is kind of totally lost on social media.
Yeah.
And he did an example. He put up a post, and like it was just a woman walking next to some like old sign or something like that, and it was part of like a documentary series of photos, and he was basically made a point on the post that it will basically get no reach, which it didn't really, because people aren't going to look at it and be like, that's cool. Whereas like that actual post had more meaning and depth behind it than like pretty much everything else that day on Instagram or whatever. And it was part of like a thing saying about like mining communities or whatever, and it was some advert for like a mining thing or as a whole like body of work, like 10, 20 photos or whatever. It tells like a really nice story, but it's like people don't have the attention to like look at that and look at one photo and go, right, here's the next photo on Instagram. Let's see what this is about. Let's see what the story is about and stuff like that. It feels weird. Me now, I've kind of had this thing where, kind of going back to the first point about like my kind of journey with it all, like through photography. I'm at the point now where I'm just bored of doing like commercially nightclubby stuff. I want to do stuff that like has meaning behind it. Yeah. And I'm in this really weird thing at the minute where like I want to tell stories in my work, but I also know this is possibly the worst time in social media history to do that. But I feel like if I don't know. I have this weird thing. I'm like flicking between things here, so sorry. No. Just like my brain just going all over. I have this weird thing where like when I die, it sounds really morbid. When I die, I want to leave behind stuff that people are going to look back on. Yeah. So going back to that photographer that I was talking about that took like rave photos in the 80s and stuff. Yeah. Them photos can be looked at in 100 years' time and people are still going to stick them in. No one's going to look at my photos of Iceland in 100 years' time and think, whoa, these are amazing. Because billions of other people have gone and took them same photos and will continue to take them same photos. Not that there's anything wrong with landscape photography. Obviously, it has its place. And I really enjoy doing it. But I just feel like when I die, I don't want kids. So I won't kind of leave behind that. I want to leave behind like a body of work that people are going to look back on and think, whoa, someone did this. That's off it. I think that's kind of one of the things I like about my happiness project that I'm doing. That people are going to look back on them, and like right now, it's nice for people to look at. I'd like to think there's like a nice meaning behind it. I'm not taking any credit for it because it's obviously other people's stories. I'm just trying to tell them stories.
But you're capturing them.
Yeah, but it's nice in a way for me because it's not like the work's not all about me. So I don't feel like I'm putting up photos going, look how good these photos are. I'm putting up these photos going, look how nice this person's story is. So I really like that. And I feel like they're good to look at now, good to read people's stories now. And I feel like in years to come, people are going to look back on that. And it'll be even more off it because, have you ever seen that video of kids in like the 40s talking about what they think the future is going to be like? No. And they're like, all these proper posh like London kids, I think we'll have flying cars.
Oh, right, yeah, I know what you mean.
And it's like, it's just off it to look back on. Just think that's what people were like and that's what people thought. And then
that's how they did, that's how they dressed.
Yeah. That's how people dressed. And there's so much to unpack from those videos. And I find them so interesting. So yeah, I really want to, that's like moving forward, that's really where I want to take my work. Down the route of creating stuff that I can leave behind. In years to come, and people can look back on, and just be like, "That's off it." I think that's what I want. Just that reaction. That's off it. That's my life goal.
I think again, there's lots. I think we can unpack there about what you said. I think that the happiness project, and I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but what I love about it is that. In a world of social media, and I want to talk about those things we talked about social media as well, in a world where often like negativity gets pushed because that gets an angry reaction.
Definitely.
like you putting out this project which is all about what makes people happy and actually spreading happiness by doing it is a really nice thing. That's my dogs are making this like so much more entertaining. Yeah, it was like a really refreshing thing to see. You know, you could have done the sadness project.
Yeah.
You didn't. Was there a reason why you did the happiness project, and was that like a part of it?
Yeah. So in lockdown, like lockdown, it was off at that one. I remember that.
So yeah,
I remember sitting in my house talking to like the 3 people that I lived with at the time.
Yeah.
Talking about like we saw this thing in China, and my mate Robin was probably freaking out, going, "Oh, what if it's going to come here?" And we were like, we're all taking the piss out. We're going, "Mate, it's not going." Like, oh yeah, it's going to come here, and we're all going to be like locked down, and everyone's going to like, yeah. And then that happened. So like that was crazy. And it was weird, right? Because like that, it was 2 weeks, wasn't it? That's what we all got given. It was 2 weeks, and then everything's back to normal.
Yeah.
And that was like, I remember thinking, that's cool. I can do anything I want in these 2 weeks. Literally. Yeah. You don't have that like standard creator artist thing of like you can't. I feel guilty if I'm not working.
Yeah.
I couldn't work.
Yeah.
So that was great. So I was kind of like, right, what do I like doing? And I was sat playing PlayStation and stuff and doing all that kind of just chilling out and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, I like taking photos, but I'm just like, but what else do I like doing? Like, and I kind of like got really like sad. I wouldn't say like depressed or anything like that, but I kind of got like a bit like sad that I couldn't like take photos and
yeah.
And then it kind of got me thinking about like, well, does it really make me happy taking the photos that I'm taking at the minute, which was basically just nightclub stuff, because as you know, working in a nightclub, it takes over your life. The late bedtimes, you don't get up at a normal time, you barely see anyone.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, what? I don't know what does make me happy, and I was like, taking photos makes me happy. Like I need to go and take some photos, and I'd thought about. Not that I was thinking about death in lockdown. It sounds really weird, but I can't remember where I got onto like the thought process. But I really got onto like the thought process of like I want to create a legacy.
Yeah.
I actually think I watched a Sean Tucker video where he speaks to his granddad, and he's showing him photos from the war.
Right,
and he's talking about these photos from the war, and he's like, "Oh, and we did this," and then he turns the page, and you can see his brain going, and he's, "Oh, and then this time we were in Hong Kong, and this happened, and this lad did this," and I was like, "That's so nice to like." You know, like have meaning behind the photos rather than just, oh yeah, that was a cool photo that I took. That was an Instagram banger that got 400 likes.
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
It
doesn't really like, it's kind of, it's instant gratification that doesn't last. Is it? Do you know what I mean? It's not like, so I was like, right, I'm feeling a bit shit. Like the kind of the buzz of lockdown, because it was kind of like, oh, exciting at first, wasn't it? Like, oh, we're all getting locked down. This is
well, like I was like, I've got the time to work on the things that I've never had time to work on before because I.
Did you work on them?
Yeah, I wrote a book.
Oh, did you?
All right,
okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, neither did I, but all right, fair enough.
No, I did, because I was like, I couldn't fucking do anything else for a couple of months.
Yeah.
For the first couple of months, I was like, smashed it, and I was like, I can't do this forever.
Yeah.
Like, and then I was working at the university at the time, and they figured out there was like an amazing time where none of them knew, like, there's a lot of old people that work at the university.
Right.
None of them knew how to like work video conferencing software for ages. So I just had like a blank calendar for ages. So I just got fucking loads of work done. When gradually they all figured it out, and I was like, oh, here we go. He's on the meetings. But So
I was kind of sat there thinking, right, what I'm going to do? I'm going to take some photos. Really need to kind of stop just sitting on PlayStation. Start playing Warzone. That was what I did. Start playing Warzone.
Yeah, I played a lot of Warzone as well. To be fair,
like me and my best play Search and Destroy as well, and that is the most probably the most toxic game mode on the most toxic game of all time. And it's really funny at first, and it's really funny, you know, just getting up and riled up in the lobby and that, and then it starts to like you come off and you feel stressed, and I'm
afterwards,
just like
like your adrenaline's firing and that, it's mad, isn't it?
So anyway, I was kind of like, right, I need to at least have a break from that when I'm not doing that. So I was like, right, I'm gonna do something. I'm trying to find. I can't take photos. So I'm going to do something that makes me happy. Find something. Sorry, that makes me happy. So I looked online, like stuff to do. You know what I mean? Like, just I was bored with the lockdown. At the time, and everyone's like, go to the gym, do some yoga, like meditate. Like, you know, that makes you happy. That does that. And I was like, I did some yoga for a bit, and it was good. Kind of didn't really want to go to the gym. Not really my scene.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, that's just what everyone says, isn't it? Go to the gym, you know, get some exercise. And I was like, I don't really feel like I want to get some exercise. I want to take photos.
Yeah.
And it really got me thinking about like different things that different people have. Different things that different people have that make them happy. And so that's kind of where the idea came from. It was also kind of quite selfish because I just wanted to get out and take photos. So that was my way of doing that. Yeah. And I also kind of I think everyone had a bit of anxiety from just being stuck in the house. It's weird. Sure, it was like, I remember going to the shops and like people were going near me and I was like, oh, don't come near me. Like, oh, I might have COVID. Masks. Like, it was scary at the time. I don't think anyone cares now.
We were going to die.
Yeah. It really was like, it really was that cool. Because they put that video out, didn't they? I remember watching a really scarily edited together video of like people just dropping to the floor in Hong Kong. And
like
was it in Hong Kong? It was in Wuhan, wasn't it? Not in Hong Kong.
Yeah, like dragging bodies across the floor.
Just
stuff you like.
I was just like, I was like, whoa, this is like this is like the plague all over again. This is like scary shit. And then obviously like people carrying like coffins in like Italy and stuff like that. And then that was before it came here. And then it was like it's landed in England, and I was like, whoa. So yeah, it was like everyone had like, a lot of anxiety with that. So it was really nice to just like go out and meet people. One of the first people that I did my mate Ben, who had his dog, just because I just thought, right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do someone that I know really well.
Yes, to start. Yeah, of course, yeah.
And then Matt Sedgwick messaged me, who I'd not spoke to really since we were in a band called Six Fiend, which was just. It was so much fun, but it was just awful. I remember I really wanted to be in a band really bad, but I didn't really know how to do anything than play like a drum machine.
Right.
Like, program drum machine. So we had like these crazy blast beat drums, which were like, it sounded awful. It sounded like a drum machine.
Right, yeah.
And we just like fucked around and just created these stupid songs with like South Park samples in and that. It's just really bad. But anyway, I hadn't really spoken to him since those days, so it was really nice. He said he did like powerlifting in his garage in Ingleby, so it was like not far from me. So I went and I had a really, really, really good catch up with him. I think I was there for like, I was like, mate, I'll only be there for like 5 minutes, and I was there for like an hour and a half. Yeah. Just got speaking about stuff. It was nice to like think back to like, because he was in The Escape Artist, which was one of the first bands I shot. And I came away from that and I was like, that was so nice. That was like really, really like, it made me feel so good. Yeah. And then just, from then I was like, I really want to do this. Yeah. Started like photographing. A lot of it was like people my age, just because I felt kind of comfortable with that. Yeah. Now I'm trying to kind of branch out into like older people and younger people. Yeah. Which is like, I think it's scary because I don't have as much in common with them. Yeah. So I don't have that much to talk about. Or at least before I go, I feel like I don't have that much to talk about. I get there on the shoot and I'm fine. It's just anxiety. Do you know what I mean? But
I think so. The things, I mean, I think I've probably looked at them all, like all posts, but the ones that really capture my attention are those, because I'm a similar thing. Like, you know, I think about you, your network, me, and my network, probably around similar ages, and like interested in certain things. So then when you put up like an older person, or like the little girl that you put up yesterday, like that photo of her with the binoculars, it's class, you know what I mean? And it's really nice that it really gives it a bit of variety. Like, well, like it's nice that you got out your shell and got out your comfort zone a bit to do those. Yeah. So I think I mentioned it to you when we did our shoot for it. Yeah. But like the goal of it is to make a book. Yeah. And it's going to be sold 100% for charity. Nice. So, like to mental health charities, because I feel like. If anyone like the idea I had behind it was basically if anyone's like struggling to like find they're happy or whatever, they can look like if they Google it, they will find gym, exercise, yoga, eat healthy, whatever. Yeah. Some people might not want to do them things. Do you know what I mean? They want to just, I don't know, make stuff,
get a dog, or like
metal detecting,
go metal detecting or jet skiing or like get like there was a guy that I'd met, which was one of my favourite ones that I'd done. I'd met him at a rave. We were both not sober. And we like just became best mates, as you can imagine. We were like, oh yeah. And then I added him on Instagram. And then the next day, I kind of just totally forgot he existed. And I'm sure he did the same thing about me. And I just had him on my Instagram. Do you know what I mean? It was just like one of them things where you just like, you meet loads of people and you know, when you're like out and you're wasted and you're just like, oh, and everyone's everyone's your mate and that. I've messed up by a stroke. I was just not going to leave me alone. So yeah, so and then his thing was beekeeping, and he basically said that he needed something to kind of he had a kid. And he needed something to like distract him from like going out and like being on the session stuff like that.
Right.
And that I don't know. I felt like that was like a really really nice. So like hearing people's stories like that, all it does is just push me to like find more stories like that and find out people's reasons for it. Kind of, you know, like it's just really nice to kind of get the whole kind of range of stories. And hopefully people will read the book. Sorry, going back to that.
That's all right.
My brain's just like, whoa. So hopefully people are going to read the book, read all these things, and maybe like resonate with at least one of them, and try something new. And that might be the thing, like, you know, like that might be the thing that saves their life. Do you know what I mean? If they're feeling like kind of depressed or whatever. So I didn't want to make any profit off it or anything like that. I just wanted it all to charity and all go to mental health charities. So even people who aren't struggling are going to buy the book. All the profit's going to go to charity. So ultimately, it will still help people.
Do you have a number? Like, do you know when you're going to put it out or anything?
So it was my initial number was 20, 30 people.
I
think I've done about 60 people now.
I was going to say you've done a lot. Yeah.
I'm very aware that the more people that I do, the bigger the book's going to be. The more expensive it's going to be to make the book. The more work it's going to be for me to do it.
But
I don't want to stop. So I might.
Could split it into volumes, Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to. There's a number of like little goals I want to hit before I put the book out. So I want to do a couple more older people. I would like to photograph someone who is a refugee, who's come over here and doesn't have a lot of stuff. You know, just somewhat. I really like the idea when I did. One of the old people I did was my grandpa, and he was saying about doing jigsaws and stuff. And then it's really interesting to see like the younger people, someone just like extreme mountain biking or something, and it's like it's weird to see that like people that are grown up, they don't need that thrill. Do you know what I mean? They don't like people our age. A lot of them are quite like. High adrenaline things or something like that. Whereas like obviously yours was scrapping people on it. So like whereas like older people and like younger like the last that I did the other day was metal detecting, finding treasure on a beach. It's like if you give someone our age a metal detector on a beach, they'd probably like try for 2 minutes, not find anything and they'd be like this is boring. Do you know what I mean? So I find it really interesting to see like the different things, and I feel like someone who's a refugee and they've come here and they've not got a lot, they probably, especially if they've like come from like a war-torn country or something, they're probably just really appreciative to just have shelter and stuff like that. I feel like that's really important to document that and to kind of you know, have that thing where you don't need to buy a jet ski. I keep saying jet ski and no one said jet skis. I don't know why I've got that in my head. You don't need to buy like a I can't think now.
No,
a jet ski.
I know motorbike, fast car,
exactly. You don't need to spend like a whole lot of money. Some people's are just something really simple. What are the other?
It's nice to put that back into perspective for people, isn't it?
I want to get more like a bit more like diversity in the project as well. A lot of people I've just photographed at the minute are just like kind of people my age, dudes. Like white people my age. And a lot of it is I've put it out on Instagram, and I've basically mainly really just photographed people who've come to me. So now I'm trying to kind of like fill in the gaps with like making it kind of a true representation of like our society and stuff like that.
I think you'd be able to do that though, because now you've got a body of work. You've got examples there. So look, this is what I want to do. So I think people will resonate with it. Do
you know who else I really want to photograph as well? And do you know what? I don't know if it's going to even happen. But my goal I don't know why it was my goal for the project was I can't remember what he's called now. The goalkeeper for England. What was he called? What's his name?
I don't know.
Jordan Pickering. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah, Pickford.
Jordan Pickford. That's the one. Yeah.
It's like I watched the World Cup. Screaming at this.
I know. Yeah, sorry. I don't. I'm not a football guy. I just watched the World Cup. I remember seeing him. Did you watch the World Cup?
Yeah.
I feel like I don't like football, but the World Cup's like the one. I feel like it's the one. I'm so wrong in saying this, by the way, but in my head, it's the one time all of England comes together. It's not, is it? Because everyone still argues about like football fans.
Yeah, no, but I know what you mean.
But do you know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
everyone wants the same thing. Everyone wants them to win. Even if you like football and you don't like football, because I don't care about football.
Yeah.
I still want them to win because it's like it's England in it. It's like it's nice. Like
yeah. Everyone gets behind
obviously, there's people that take it way too far.
Yeah.
Which is the side that I hate about football.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing him save them goals and that, and I just think that's football. Like football fans that save them goals and that. Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? Like he did well, didn't he?
Yeah,
yeah. And I remember watching him on the TV, and I'm like, I'm going to get him for my happiness project.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've promised myself I'm going to do that now, and I've not even made any progress on trying it.
But that's okay. Like I say, I think because you've got a body of work and you're obviously clearly like you can take a good photo.
I feel like I'm going to let myself down if he's not in the project. I've like it's so toxic like that I've put on myself this, but I feel like the book is not done until I've got him. It's like it's 2040. I still need to get him from my brother. The book's not coming out yet.
It's funny. I have like a list of like people that I'd like to have on the podcast. Range it, and there's like maybe 20 or 30 of people that are like within my network.
Right.
Some like it'll be a bit harder than others, and then there's like 4 or 5 which are like completely ridiculous.
Right.
Like celebrities, but I'm like,
who are the like big dogs?
So, off the top of my head, one of them is Paddy Pimblett, the UFC fighter.
Right. Yeah.
But he's just, I feel like I've missed the boat because like 6 months ago I would have got him. He's friends with some lads that I know that train in Middlesbrough.
Right.
They've been on his podcast, but he's been taken on by this organisation called Barstool Sports, who've like. He's just been on Mike Tyson's podcast.
I think I've seen some of that viral videos or something.
Yeah.
I recognise the name.
So he's just been on like Mike Tyson's podcast, and I'm like, fuck, I think I've missed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the other one, I was like, Sam Fender would be really cool. Yeah. But then he's like, again, like I had that thought, and he was like, oh, I'm going to play St. James's Park twice to fucking 60,000 people or whatever. And I'm like, I think I've missed the boat with him as well.
No,
like last year, he's playing the Georgian. You know what I mean?
Tell you what, right? If you get Sam Fender on the podcast, tell him I've got a roll of film of his. Right. I've been trying to message him about it, right?
Yeah,
this is a really weird, like totally random story. Elvana, the band, the Elvis
Nirvana
crossover tribute band that I photographed for, they rented out a tour bus, like a minivan, and there was a camera on the minivan that had been left there from a band before.
Right.
And I saw it and I was like, I need to get it developed. I need to find out the owner. If I'd had a disposable camera, I've left it somewhere, I'd want someone
on a tour bus. Yeah,
on a tour bus, I'd want someone to develop it. So I developed it. I didn't have a clue who Sam Fender was at the time. I put the photos on Facebook and I was like, that's Sam Fender. That's Sam Fender in his band.
No way.
And like, I have a full roll of film of his. I only put a couple of photos on. I didn't want to like...
Yeah, of course, yeah.
There was like photos of people, like... There was photos of like certain people with other people, and I was like, I don't want to cause any drama. I don't know who these people are. I don't want to get like Sam Fender's manager on the phone and be like, take them down. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, if he comes on the podcast, tell him I've got a roll of film. I tried to message him, and it obviously went to his requests.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of people that like know of him that I said, tell him, and they were like, yeah, I will, and then they didn't, which is fine. Do you know what I mean?
If I end up, it's a long shot. But if I end up booking him for the podcast, I'll
send you the film, right? And you can blackmail him. Come on my podcast. I'm releasing these photos. I don't know who these people are, but I'm releasing them. Yeah.
So yeah, but thinking about like YouTube and that, how are you finding, like, you've put a couple of videos on YouTube now?
Yes.
What have they been about?
How
are you finding that process?
It's horrible, mate. It's horrible.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. What it is, right? So about a year ago, I started watching podcasts. My mate Tasha, that lives in Australia now.
Yeah.
She sent me a Joe Rogan podcast with, is it Michael McConaughey? I don't know if I got his name right.
The actor?
The cowboy actor guy.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. She sent me a Joe Rogan podcast with him.
Yeah.
I'd never watched a podcast in my life before.
Right.
Didn't know who Joe Rogan was. And I watched that and I was like, I can't remember what he was saying on it, but I felt really inspired by it.
Yeah. It's a good episode, yeah. I've listened to it, yeah.
And then I started watching more Joe Rogan podcasts and I was like, I love podcasts. Podcasts are sick. This is cool. I never thought about this before. Podcasts are sick.
Yeah.
Then I started watching like YouTubers. And I started watching like a few of like the YouTubers that like I'd naturally came across were ones that were photographers that I already followed on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I started watching them and I just it seemed like all of my favourite photographers on Instagram, all my favourite photographers on Instagram had a YouTube channel.
Right.
So it was kind of like, it was sort of like, maybe I should have a YouTube channel. Instagram, obviously, was at the point I've established, the reach is dying.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to branch out. YouTube seemed like the kind of like natural progression. Mm-hmm. But as someone, like I say, it was, as like I say, someone who's like had anxiety, it was, do you know what, I didn't think it'd be as bad as what it was until I put the camera on and I started recording, and I was like stood in the shower and I was going through, I thought at first I'd put a video out. My first video was just why I'm starting a YouTube channel. I felt like I needed to explain myself for some weird reason. Yeah. I feel like the northeast, it might just be the whole country, but I feel like the northeast, a lot of, if I've done something that's a bit like out there, I feel like people aren't necessarily super supportive. In general, I'm stereotyping. There is a lot of people who are very supportive.
It's an England thing that we'll yeah.
Yeah. I feel like people just kind of judge you a little bit, or kind of talk about you for doing something that's a bit like...
for trying.
Yeah.
Setting up a business. Yeah. Whatever it is. Yeah.
So I felt like I needed to explain myself, I guess, subconsciously. So I was like, right, I'm going to put a video out of why I'm doing a YouTube channel. Stood in the shower the morning I was going to do it, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to say this is what I'm going to say. I was like talking out loud. I don't know if you ever do that.
Yeah.
And I was kind of going through it, and I was like, yeah, I got this, easy. Do you know what I mean? I sat down, I put the camera on, I had my light on, sat down, and I was like, you know, kind of getting the framing right and everything like this. I was like, this is easy, sorted, got this. Went over, pressed record, sat down. Mate, I was bad. I was sat there and I was doing takes, and I'd do a take, right, I'll try and run through it like what I'd do. I'd be like, hi everyone, so welcome to our YouTube, and I was like, oh, and then I'd sit there and I'd go, oh, what are you doing? Shut up. And then I'd be like, hi everyone, welcome to our YouTube. Oh, everyone. I'd be like, yo, and I'd be like, what? Who do I think I am? And I'd say this out loud, as if there was someone watching me. I was like, nobody's gonna see this, like I don't know, it was weird. It was, and then I'd go over and I'd turn the camera off and I'd sit there and I'd run through it. I'd turn my light off and I'd run through it. And I'd be like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. It's fine. And I'd go over, press record, and I couldn't do it. And it's so weird because I'm editing the video. It's not like... Yeah. I think one of the reasons I was scared coming here today is because I'm not editing it. So, like, I was like, oh, what if I'd like choke? Do you know what I mean? And I'd like, oh, I don't know what to say. So, just terrifying. And then what was even worse was after I'd done it, watching it back, and I was just cringing
and
so bad.
editing it is hard,
And I sat on it for like maybe 2 months, you know.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was scared to even like edit it and look at it. And like Jo, who I live with, been with her for 3 years. Honestly, like she's the most supportive person. She knows everything about me. I tell her whenever I'm feeling anxious or like whatever, and she's like ultra supportive. Do you know what I mean? Can completely be myself around her. And I was like terrified about her watching the video. I was really scared. I was like, what if she's going to think that I'm being weird? Because obviously, like, I was trying to be myself, but I've also kind of got appear confident, which I'm not.
Of course,
And I was kind of like, oh, what if Joel watches it and judges me? And I'm like, that's such a weird thing to think, because of all the people in the world, she never judges me, and I know that. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it was really scary. And as soon as I showed Jo it, like I filmed it and edited it. I filmed it, waited like 2 months, edited it, waited like 2 weeks. I had to wait till she was out the house to even edit it, because I was like, what if she's upstairs and she hears? And even like when I was editing it, I had my headphones in, because I was like, what if the neighbour listens? And I was like, oh, this is so stupid. So edited it, and I remember showing Jo, and I was just so scared. Like when she was watching it, I was cringing so bad watching it back. And like it finished, and she said, that was really, really good. And I just immediately just felt this whole like weight just lifted, because I could tell, like she would say if it was...
Yeah, if it needed...
Do you know what I mean? Tweaking, she wouldn't probably go in on me, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But she would be like, I think you should do this.
Yeah.
And I just felt like this, and I was like, you know what? I'll put it out. And I put it out, and I was like, oh, the whole, like, it was like all over again. And honestly, like, I think I got like maybe like 30 odd people commented on it, because I put it on my Instagram. 30 people commented on it, and I just felt like really like emotional. I was like, oh my God, like this is...
Yeah.
Like people... going back to like the unsupportive thing and why I kind of think it was a North East thing. There's a lot of people that I've met at festivals or I've met at jobs that are like not up north and stuff, and they tend to, as a general rule, be the people that are like most supportive of me on Instagram. Like if I put a post up, I can kind of like, if I get a comment, I know kind of who the people who usually comment on it.
Yeah.
And I really, really appreciate it. It's really like, I really like truly feel supported. Yeah. And like when them people went on my YouTube video and said that, I was kind of like, even though I don't really know these people, I feel really attached to them because I feel like they're my support network and stuff. And I kind of had that whole kind of, what are my mates going to think? What people I know is going to think? What if my parents see it? What are they going to think? Because like my mum especially, my mum knows really well, but I'm not as close with my dad. Yeah. He doesn't have social media. He probably never see it. He probably doesn't even know that I've put a YouTube video out. But I kind of think, oh, what if he's going to see it? I don't know why I was thinking that, because I was kind of just being myself, like maybe just a more confident version of myself. But it really, really scared me. And then it was like, right, now I need to do another one, because it didn't have any meaning. My first one, did it? It was literally just me saying, hi, I'm making a YouTube channel. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and now I have to keep my promises.
Do it,
and then I filmed. The second one I filmed was what camera should you buy? Because I feel like it's one that a lot of people ask me, what camera should I buy? I filmed it, and I was so scared. For some reason, I was really like, it wasn't as bad as the first time, but I still felt really awkward about putting it out. Yeah. And I sat on it for so long. It was like maybe 3 weeks. Canon released the R7 and R10, like mirrorless cameras. Yeah. But they're like crop sensor mirrorless cameras. Yeah. So perfect for beginners. Like, and I was like, well, I can't put that video out now because I haven't said about them cameras, and like everyone's going on about how perfect them cameras are for beginners, and I'm sat there talking about some like camera that's like 2 months out of date. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I've missed the boat on it, and I just deleted it, and I was like, right, okay, got to start again. Yeah. But the more I do it, I am feeling better, and I feel like it is really, like, I would never have come on a podcast. I would never have come on a podcast before. Yeah. So like low-key, like as much as it is scary, it is really helping my confidence. Yeah. And I feel like when people are kind of like, I don't know, I feel like the whole people not supporting me, I don't think people aren't supporting me. I think it's weird. I don't know so what are your thoughts about this whole England?
Well, so the reason I said like England is like the people that you mentioned that are like support you, that you met like on jobs in other places, are perhaps people that are like have had that support in their chosen industry. So I don't know if they're photographers or creatives, but they probably earn half decent money and have had to fight a little bit to get there and got some support along the way. Yeah. So they're in a position where like they'll give that support back, like you would, like I would. Yeah. I think it's an England thing because like there's bits of, it's not just the Northeast. I think it's an economic thing, I think is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So I think when there's places where people don't have a lot, which is lots of pockets of England, not just the Northeast. Yeah. Because I've seen it and felt it a lot. You know, putting podcasts out like years ago, people just being like, it's a bit weird. Like having a YouTube channel. Yeah. Oh, what's he doing that for? It's a bit shit. Oh, it's a bit awkward. I got messages from people saying, what are you doing that for?
Really?
Like years ago.
Right.
I had one guy, and this I've mentioned this before, and this wasn't like a nasty thing, but he was just like, he was like, why are you doing it? Like, do you want to be a radio presenter or something? Yeah. And I was like, oh, you just don't get it. Yeah. Like, I was like, oh, you're not going to get this for a while. But like, yeah, it's like a crabs in a bucket is what it's called, because if you put a load of crabs in a bucket, if one tries to get out, all the other crabs drag them back down.
Right. Okay. I've never heard of that, but that's
crabs in a bucket mentality. Right? Okay, yeah. So and I think it comes from people being insecure because they've perhaps not done well. Yeah. And they see somebody reaching and trying to ideas above the station, you know, doing a little bit well, and they want to drag them back down because. Yeah. They might have wanted to do that, but they haven't had the confidence, or they haven't got the skills, or for whatever reason, they've not had that opportunity. Or they, you know, if you were in a pub with like 30 blokes and you're like, oh, you know, you were going to the footy and I'm proper generalising here, but
yeah,
like,
yeah, I know what you
like,
mean.
oh, I think I'm going to start a YouTube channel about like the footy, like Borough or whatever. They'd be like, what, are you on YouTube? Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that is an England thing,
Yeah.
and I don't get it.
I
If you
think
go to
that was-
America, it's the opposite.
I think that was my worry with it. I didn't want people to think that I was trying to be more than what I am.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like...
But to counter that, you have every right to be better.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
all do as
Yeah.
humans, and I know that's not why you started the YouTube channel, but it's funny, isn't it? That because I thought like that, starting Reap, I thought everyone at jiu-jitsu was gonna laugh at me. It's taken me 2 years to get. Well, not 2 years, but like now, like lots of people in the gym want to buy my stuff off me, which is
Yeah.
really nice.
That's cool.
But for a long time, I felt like a little bit of resistance from people in there because it was a bit like, oh, what, you're doing that. Is it any good? You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I've noticed like, and I genuinely don't think any of them mean it in like a bad way.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that it's not usually like my closest friends that are the most supportive.
Right. Okay.
It almost feels like, I'd like to think it's not like a jealous thing or anything like that, or like a trying to kind of. I don't know. I think it's awkward. I think it's like an awkward thing where I don't think it's normal for people here to like compliment other people.
Yeah.
Whereas I
Woody.
whoa, hi.
Yeah.
So when I visited my mate Tasha in Australia.
Yeah.
In 2017.
Yeah.
And one of the things that like struck me most about there,
Yeah.
people like she was working. I think she was working for Oxfam at the time, and I went for 2 weeks, and she could only get 1 week off. So I spent one of my weeks just exploring with my camera, taking photos around Brisbane. People kept stopping me in the street and like complimenting me on my tattoos and stuff.
Right.
And then they would like someone said, "Oh, they like my hair" or whatever, and then someone said. Some old guy sat on a bench was asking me about my tattoos, and he's like, "Oh, he had like some cans of cider," and he was like, "Oh, do you want to come and sit with me and chill?" And I was like, "You know what? I've got nothing to do. I will. I'll come and sit with you." So I sat with this old guy, like this literally this old guy, and he was showing me his tattoos that he got in prison or whatever, and he was like kind of like a Tweety pie and stuff, you know, and all this, and asking me about my life. It was weird, really, right? Because he was going on about. It was his dream to visit England. He watches Home on the Country every night, and it's his dream to visit England. It's the most beautiful country, and I'm like, mate, it's shit. That's why I've come to Australia, because this is the dream. This is the, and he's like, nah, this is shit. Like England is the dream, and I'm like, that's so weird, so weird. Yeah, I just noticed there, everyone was just very open to like compliment you, and everyone seemed like very much on like bigging people up, and like whenever I speak to Tasha on the phone. Like, she was like that anyway when she was here, but even more so now, she's always, like super, like, complimenting everything I'm doing and saying, I think she was one of the people who actually said, like, do a YouTube channel, do a podcast and stuff. So, maybe you're right, it is just like an England thing. Yeah. But, yeah, I'm very much, like, I like complimenting people. I feel like, in terms of my kind of progression from being like a nightclub photographer that kind of just was like, yeah, this is what I do, I'm just going to make some money, to like now where I feel like, oh, I would like to see myself as like a documentary photographer. I can do this, like it's cool. I can ask these people, and I can turn up at this job, photograph someone I've never met in my life. Yeah. You know, I'm a photographer kind of thing. That's what photographers do. I feel like a lot of that was accelerated by certain compliments that certain people have given me. Yeah. There's like maybe like 3 or 4 compliments that people have given me in the past that have felt like very, very genuine, and that have kind of been totally from like a really like wholesome place where they're not just going, oh, I'm going to compliment you because I want you to think I'm a really nice person. They've genuinely come out and give me like a really nice, like heartfelt compliment, or, and there's been a couple of interactions like that I've had with people, and like I feel like maybe it's just down to like the situation at the time and like what I'm doing at the time to whether, I don't know, do you know what I mean? Maybe it's just a situational thing, but I feel like certain compliments can give certain people so much confidence, and completely like change their life. Yeah. And kind of just pushing someone like, say if I don't know, someone's kind of just coming up and coming doing photography, I will always message them and say, like, mate, your work's really sick.
Yeah,
like, you should, you know, have you ever thought about doing this? Because you would do really well at it. Like, I wouldn't lie to people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You've got to be honest with people. But I think that it's really important to make people aware that they can do much more than what like society is telling them that they can do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think like thinking about this podcast actually, and thinking, you know, when we talk about numbers and stuff on Instagram, and like realizing there's people behind it. Like, you know, I check the views of the podcasts and stuff and the listens on Spotify and that, but there's a couple of people, like literally 2 or 3, that will often say to me, "Oh, listen to your podcast. It was a really good episode."
Yeah.
And I'm like, that makes me pick up the phone and book another guest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, right, when is my next one? Right, I had to cancel on Eddie. Let's fucking sort it out because someone's... And I'm like, you know, there might be, you know, the podcast get like a few hundred views or whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't correlate that to those people liking it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely,
But when somebody says, even if it's a comment on Instagram, like, "Oh, great, listen, that." Like, Nate from Demoralizer messaged me, and he's a like class, and he's always like chatted to me and Curtis loads. He recorded Wraith's EP and stuff, but he messaged me saying, "Oh, you and Curtis like bounce off each other like really well. Like, I really enjoyed that." And I thought, fucking hell, and I hadn't heard from Nathan for ages, and I was like, that means, you know, I'm talking about it now, like that. It means something, doesn't
exactly,
it?
yeah,
like,
it sticks with you, and it gives you like, I feel like when in times when you kind of need a bit of a confidence boost, you can think back to them things. Like they will, your brain will naturally kind of like take you back to that and just think, no, you know what, like, there's no reason that person said that to me other than because they think it's true.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like
they're not getting anything from it.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't go, I really love your video that you're doing, by the way. You know, I want to do a video like that. Can you give me a discount? Do you know what I mean? It's not like that. It's literally people. Some of the people as well that like I'd never even spoke to.
Yeah.
Like someone had, I did some photos the other day of the Queen's funeral at Eldon Square.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the first things other than my happiness project where I've gone out and I'm like, right, I'm a documentary photographer. I need to start documenting stuff.
Yeah.
I want to take photos of this because I feel like people are going to look back on it. And even though it's not in London, do you know what I mean? Like, there's obviously other people that are doing that work in London, and I've seen some amazing photos from that.
Yeah.
I want to document it up north, and I didn't think there was anything going on in Middlesbrough, so I was like, right, I'll go to Newcastle, it's just on the road. And I put them photos out, and I put them on Facebook in a group, and someone had commented saying, something like, these photos are going to be very valuable to certain people later on in life or something like that. Or these people, I can't remember exactly what it was. It was basically saying like these, one day these photos are going to be very valuable or something like that. And I read that and I was like, that is such a huge, to me that was such a huge compliment because that is everything that I set out to like, that is my goal. That is what I wanted. Like I want people to look back on that. And while I went out and took them photos and I don't know, do you ever do that thing where like you overplan something even though you have no idea what it's going to be like and you have like an idea of it and then you get there and it's not like that and even though you've come home with something good, it's not what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it happens most times to pick up a camera,
Yeah, and I had that and I was like, I'm happy with what I got, but I really wanted this shot, I really wanted a shot of this. But obviously like it didn't happen, so I couldn't get it, do you know what I mean? Like it's stupid to overplan it because it's like, it's not something like if you were doing a fashion shoot or whatever, I really want to photo the model doing this. Like you go and you have control of that. You can do it. But there's so stupid planned documentary stuff because you don't know what it's going to be like, especially if you're walking into like a situation like that. I didn't even know if there's I didn't even know if there's going to be anyone there. Yeah. So, but honestly, like coming home and being like, well, you know, I'm happy with these photos. I put them online and I got like a really good reaction to them, which was great. Because like I say, it was something that it's something that I want to do more of. Yeah. But yeah, just seeing that one compliment that person didn't have to go out of the way to do. Yeah. It just meant so much, and now I'm just like, right, I want to do more. I've done what I set out to do. Yeah. And I feel proud of myself for doing that. Yeah. And that's just given me like a massive confidence boost. I feel like if more people authentically complimented other people, I feel like some people get lost, that meaning lost. Some people like, in I don't know, I feel like if we went out and, I was thinking about doing like a reel, a while back, saying, there was something where Instagram had totally killed everyone's reach. Oh, what had they done? They'd switched the... Dog's creeping on me. They'd switched it to that new TikTok layout, you know, where it like flicks.
Yeah.
And everyone was kicking off about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, need some confidence. I was going to do a reel that basically said, look, instead of everyone like having a really shit day about the new algorithm, why not go on Instagram and just send someone a message and complimenting.
Yeah.
And I challenge people to send someone a compliment, and I was like, no, because loads of lads are gonna just like start messaging loads of lasses, loads of creepy stuff, aren't they? I was like, that's not gonna translate very well. Like, so I feel like it needs context. Like,
yeah, but you're right.
But then that's a compliment that's aimed at like they want something from it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like people should compliment like that guy. Like some guy walking past me in the street in Australia that went, "Oh, nice tattoos," and then walked off.
Yeah, not going to get anything from it.
He's never going to get that. He just literally wanted to do that. Like, you know, seeing someone in Tesco and going, "Oh, I love that top,"
yeah,
and walking away. Do you know what I mean? It feels so nice because it's like they're not doing it for any, and they're not trying to get anything from you.
Yeah, you feel good and they feel good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Eddy Maynard, where can the people find you?
So Instagram at Eddy Maynard, EDDY, because everyone spells it with an IE. Yeah, my fault for spelling it. Do you know, I just spelling it that way in the first place. So yeah, Instagram Eddy Maynard. Twitter, I don't really use Twitter, but it's Eddy Maynard. And then YouTube, Eddy Maynard. Literally just yeah, I think that's it. I have a V-Raw as well now. Everyone's switching to V-Raw, aren't they? I
don't know what that is.
Apparently it's like this huge thing where photographers are...
All right, okay, that's nice.
Sacking off Instagram and switching to V-Raw. I'm bored of it already.
Right.
But my V-Raw, if it does kick off, is... You know, if like in a month's time everyone's using V-Raw, it's Eddy Maynard. So there we go.
Good. Thank you very much for your time.
Nice one. Thank you for having me on.
Anytime.